Yesterday, we talked about the best ball playoffs coming off as a culmination of what we've been doing since February, drafting teams here on stream. Today, we're going to talk about the playoff best ball world. Of course, we are drafting a new set of teams to compete in the NFL playoffs, and now is about the time I can start to wrap my head around it. So what we're going to do today, draft some teams. We're also going to look at some of the metadata, some of the strategy behind how to build these good teams. And of course, let's get into it here, and let's start. I'm currently waiting for a mitten to fill, so if you want to play along with me on Underdog right now. And of course, use that promo code SPLASH to match your deposit up to $100. Oh boy, we are back in Underdog promo mode. But let's talk about, before we get into that, of course, I put on the title for beginners because I realized yesterday, or some of the feedback I got from you guys, just talking about, best ball itself. Some of you guys, this is your first year putting in any entries. For some of you out there, it was your first year putting in a lot of entries. So I do want to make sure I'm covering it off, where I don't think this will be for like pure beginners. If you've never played best ball before, I'm probably not the person for you to start hearing from right away. But if you are coming in here and you have a baseline of knowledge based on what we talk about here on Splash Play, hopefully that'll be a good thing here as we kind of wrap our heads around the strategy of playoff best ball, which I think has some real flaws, and I did think it was a really good stream. Legendary upside, of course. I don't need to promote the great Pat Corrine, though maybe I do because we are ahead of him in subscribers right now. That's going to last for like another couple of weeks. But for Pat, though, did a great roundtable with Sacrilegious, Kyle Dvorak, and Danny Dimes, who I'm not familiar with. I forget his real name. The point being, we're talking about the strategy of playoff best ball, and you can see here what this comes down to. These are the teams that, according to Sumer Sports, which they combine some of the advanced analytics with the Super Bowl odds that are out there from betting markets. You're seeing the top teams that are most likely to make the conference title game. So that is what we're trying to push towards here. Who's going to make the conference title game? Who's going to have a shot to be there at the end? It's not about just getting out of the wild card round. That is the big mistake a lot of beginners make. It's just they try to build teams that are like, hey, this team can maybe get me out of the first round. You're not going to win enough money to justify the time expense, the actual financial expense. And then just the plus EV part of it is just going for the Super Bowl, trying to get 5 guys across to build a full roster of the Super Bowl. The downside of that is what I could tell you I experienced last year, where I got absolutely dusted in playoff best ball in large part because I was building teams that were a little bit too Super Bowl focused, a little bit too much of like the Eagles and those kind of teams, the Niners, just going heavy on them without really accounting for ways to get out of the wild card. So that's what we're going to try to do differently today, but let's figure it out as we go here. And I do think CeeDee Lamb would have been a guy I would have loved to have gotten here, as I've talked about here. I really do believe in Dallas being a team that can win the Super Bowl, make a big run at it and all of that. Of course, Dallas, though, not that highly ranked in terms of these chances to make the conference title game. It does seem like it's a little bit higher for the Eagles. As a result of that, I think we're going to do a move that I'm not the craziest about here. Do I want to do that? Yeah, let's go Jalen Hurts. It's hard to ignore the upside Jalen Hurts has. As I've talked about on the stream a lot, I really feel like the Eagles are running into some bad things that they've done on the year, just in terms of Jalen Hurts, again, not being as efficient in terms of the EPA metrics that we talked about. Of course, that's the most important thing you look at year to year, just how guys are performing compared to how they did last year. And for Jalen Hurts, we were talking about a less efficient player across the board, even though, the Eagles obviously going to be very high likelihood of being the bye week team, very high likelihood of being a Super Bowl contender that can make it all the way. So obviously there are some things that go with loggerheads with how that goes, but I think my eye test part of it for Jalen Hurts is that I'd prefer to build around Dallas if you can, but you're paying for CeeDee Lamb at a really steep price tag here. So I think Jalen Hurts at number 3 makes a little bit more sense. And I have no issue going to Tyreek either, but it does seem like I've started a run of QBs here. We're seeing Jalen Hurts, Brock Purdy, Lamar Jackson go in a row. So some different things to account for with that. The main thing, though, that I do want to beat in your guys' head is how important it is to have those 5 players to fill out a roster in the Super Bowl. So that's the main thing we're playing for here. Obviously, you can get those 5 players from the same team in the hopes that they make the Super Bowl, but you can also get those 5 players from a combination of 2 teams making the Super Bowl. And that's why, for the most part, I am going to today try to target getting into conference title teams and, and really playing out what that looks like. So going to hit a few drafts today and try to get a feel for it, because these are my first playoff basketball drafts of the season. Obviously, I'll be hitting a little bit more once the cash re-up comes from all of our BBM entries that are making it through, along with the other tournaments too. But this is what the next few weeks here are going to be on Wednesdays, guys, so strap in. Shouts to chat as always. Sammy was here bright and early, going to be watching after the fact. Justin in meetings. GM from Tyler here to my meet. Okay, GM to Tyler's meet. The best morning, I'm sure, is for Tyler's genitals. All right, so we do have the opportunity to keep building Philly here. Obviously, we could also try to bring some bringbacks. I think we're going to be running into it a little bit if we do that. So let's go with A.J. Brown here. Dak Prescott has a better Super Bowl chance than Jalen Hurts? No. I mean, not based upon the math right now. Again, it's pretty narrow. 20% conference title chance for Dallas, 22% for Philadelphia. So you can make the case that Dallas is a little bit undervalued, given that that is just a 2% differential. But I would say still, like, I think the Eagles, the bye week thing is really important. Like, it's much easier to make a Super Bowl if you get the bye. Obviously, it makes it a little bit tougher to advance in this kind of format as well. But I think that's kind of baked into the price tags here, where obviously with the Eagles being a team that is a top Super Bowl contender and has been since May, basically since March. I think that this is people are not drafting the Eagles as highly because of the fact it's kind of baked in and they might not get, or they're going to get the bye. And I think that there is probably some positive outcomes to play where you hope the Eagles somehow don't get the bye and maybe Dallas does. And that's a way that the Eagles are going to be live in the wild card and can take you through a few more rounds potentially, but very tough. Okay. Yesterday you stated we are below average. You need to strap in. I think you do. I think you still need to strap in. If anything, you need to strap in more so, but well above average on DraftKings now, thanks to the wild cards. And if you guys were curious about that, if you haven't checked your account, the wild card entries have done it a little bit earlier than they did last year. So that is definitely a good one to have, but there we go. Also, can't follow up with GM. That was a vaguely insulting first chat by Charles. Then he comes in with the GM, but Charles is a regular, so he gets some rope, I guess, to hang himself with and insulting our beloved host, me, of course. I'm the most beloved host that I know, I would say. Some things coming up too, programming wise. I'm thinking about doing this guy's doing 2 QBs, which you can do. I don't think that's the most plus EV move. Lamar and Tua. 2 QBs from the AFC. I don't think this is a great draft by Maxey, from what I know of the stuff, where you are trying to play an outcome. You can still draft 2 QBs for sure, but you're only drafting, again, there's only 10 rounds in this draft, so you're not drafting a lot of guys. You really do want to try to build rosters of skill position guys that can get there. I don't know. I think that's a ballsy move to waste draft capital that early. Yeah, you're better off pushing it late. That's the way that I would view it for sure. But I would think in general, you're probably not really trying to play 2 QBs very much. Who else can we play making the conference finals? And who else could fill out a roster here? I think we need to just take Swift at this point just to give me a running back. Obviously, I think Eagles stacks in this one not going to be the most, the biggest surprise for anybody here, especially with this one 1-1-2. But we are getting the best of the Eagles. And again, if they are a team that wins the Super Bowl this year, I'm going to be so sad because I'm going to have to hear about it nonstop locally here in the Philadelphia area. But B, they're going to carry all these guys with them. So you can see different game scripts where DeAndre Swift gets there, different game scripts that go with A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith getting there. So we definitely have some ways to work. 2 QBs when Lamar won't have a bye as week. That is definitely a good point. Taking 2 QBs and you're trying to get a wild card team through makes sense. But even still, I would be trying to take a wild card team, kind of like the Jaguars were last year, where you're taking a team that can make a run and maybe make a conference title game. I think that's the kind of wild card team you're willing to go to. You're not trying to get a one and done one because you're just kind of going to narrow your opportunity a little bit more. I think we need to maybe start drafting from the AFC here. What can we do? ATN? Yeah, you know what? Let's do Jags. We'll make the Jags making a conference title run here. I don't love the Jags overall, but it's really not about teams you love. It's just about trying to get that full roster. And the key point, by the way, which I should have mentioned up top, which, again, got from the sacrilegious conversation that he had with Pat Crane and Legendary Upside. Check out that video if you have the time. I think it was like an hour and 20 minutes, so a little bit long, but definitely worth it if you are trying to really wrap your head around how to approach playoff basketball from some very sharp data guys, as well as, of course, the BBM3 champion. What he talked about was that only 8 teams last year made the finals, being able to field a full roster of 5 players. So just by proxy of making those 5 players into the finals, you're going to be competing against so many less people, and that's going to give you the best shot to win first place. And the analogy that he made, which I do think helps drive it home pretty well, is that it's like if you're playing a DFS slate and then 90% of the entries that are in the finals don't put in a lineup, basically. That's sort of what you're competing against, where it's impossible to beat a 5-man team if you have a 4-man team. It's impossible to beat a 5-man team if you have a 3-man team, especially. So you're just trying to get 5 guys across and have that be the barest minimums that they can skate by. And ideally, if you can get great players out of your 5-man roster you're going to have for the Super Bowl, that's ideal, but it's just about having those 5 players and having them be guys that have a projection on them, having them be guys that are going to be in play, getting routes, getting snaps, and all of that. So that's what we're trying to do here. It's not about building great teams. It's about building teams that can still field you a full roster for the Super Bowl and give you a shot to be one of those 8, 20 teams, maybe if more people play sharp this year. But enough teams don't draft intelligently that it does kind of feel like you were running up against a lot of teams that are just going to be drafting to get out of that wild card. So that's why you're going to probably lose a little bit of money, obviously, if things don't go your way. But I think that for the most part, Take Ridley here. For the most part, though, like I have to be comfortable, and you have to be comfortable losing the money you're putting in if your team can't get out of the wild card. But if you built a good enough team to win it for the Super Bowl, like you're hoping to escape that first round pod and then get to the bye week, or get to the second round, rather, the divisional round, and just have enough players out there that can keep you going. Making teams of full lineups is the only outcome you should be playing for. Hard to get there, but getting a full 5 gets you down to maybe 12 to 20 other lineups to beat against max. Yeah, that was the thing that Sacrilegious was pointing to, especially where talking about exploitative play. Just the idea of like that so many teams out there are not playing full rosters. So many teams out there are drafting a bunch of wild card players just in the hopes to get out of the wild card and have a slight payday off of that. But it's like you're playing for what? I don't know what the exact money is in the mitten, but you're playing for what, $10 entries on your back on your $5 entry. Like, it's really not worth it to just try to get to the second round. But if you are playing to the finals, you're playing for 25 grand. So that's the goal, is to play for the finals first and foremost. And I think that is a very hard part for people to wrap their brains around, but that is definitely what we are going to be trying to do here. Last year was so low because both bye week teams made it. If a wildcard team makes it, that number will be a lot higher. That's fair too. It also depends to which wildcard team it is. Like if it were, I don't know, if like the Rams somehow make the playoffs, which is still very low probability as it has been for basically the last month, as we talked about on here. If the Rams somehow make the playoffs, like they're undrafted so frequently that obviously they would get drafted a little bit more by the time we get, towards the end of the regular season. But, there are some wild card teams that I think would still be a pretty low amount of final teams being there. All right, what else can we do here? We still have more Jacksonville guys. I think we're just building Jacksonville, making the conference title game. So let's keep going this way. We have our 2 running backs. This build feels very cozy, which I don't like. It honestly feels like a chalky build here. So I think we're going to have to get in a third team. It's going to be a little bit less owned. But we have our core Eagles. We don't have Dallas Goedert. Would have liked for him to come back, and then maybe I could have pushed some of the Jags a little bit further. But I think we have like a real roster here. So I don't hate this team. This is enough here. Obviously, we'd be able to field 5 guys if it was a Jags-Eagles Super Bowl. So we've done the core part here. It's just how do we get enough to get out of those first few rounds? Will Underdog be releasing a playoff eliminator contest? I don't know about that. I know they're doing weekly winners, but I'm sure, it might be tough to finagle an eliminator format for that. But I don't know. It's all in Hope and Numi's hands. Seems like, as the people are generating a lot of the tournaments out there. So harass them on social media. That's always the solution. Just bother people on social media to get the result you want. But I have no clue. Little Mitten's only $3 per entry. That is true. This is the regular Mitten, which is $5 per entry. The Little Mitten, though, $3 per entry and a 20 entry max. So I think if you're not going to have a lot of time, if you don't want to put in a bunch of entries, I would say that is one that you could definitely feel a little bit more comfort going to. And I was actually thinking about doing the Little Mitten today. And maybe, if you guys want, we could do a Little Mitten as well. I'm not going to do a gauntlet today because, frankly, I didn't want to deposit in my account. And also, I didn't want to play gauntlets yet. Like, I feel like the higher dollar tournaments, I'd rather wait a little bit longer. I know some sharp players out there have already maxed out the gauntlet. I know Short Gamer, of course, one of our guys here who won the Millie Maker a couple of weeks ago on DraftKings, did put in all of his entries, I believe I saw on social media. So you're going up against some wild shit in these tournaments. So just something to keep in mind there. Guys like Short Gamer, I'm sure, approached that with a very sound game theory approach. All right. Other line. Does this guy take a third QB? No, this guy took, okay. I thought Maxey took a third QB, and I was going to really rail on him, but that'll not be the case now. Do we take, I don't want to take Gainwell too. I feel like we're kind of competing against that one. Who else can make conference title game? I'm seeing another out here. Let's do this. Jerick McKinnon. Obviously, Pacheco banged up. I'm not the biggest Jerick McKinnon believer, but we have seen playoff Jerick McKinnon be a thing enough times. I really feel like I'm building a very easy to build lineup. Getting Jalen Hurts, getting that full Eagles stack, I think is not too hard to do. Again, because people being concerned about them having the bye week. And I think just going Jags and Chiefs with the way they lined up, probably a little bit too obvious of plays to get to, but it is what it is. Also, this guy took Trevor Lawrence. Or he took an unstacked Trevor Lawrence. Very smart by G-Men. I wasn't going to draft Trevor Lawrence anyway, I don't think, but would have been nice to have the optionality. But we get sniped again, even when cannot help but get sniped, I think, in the playoff best ball room. So it is what it is. Kadarius Toney. Oh, he took Kadarius Toney. Oh, fuck. All right, I guess I just can't get anything going here in terms of these alternate teams. I'm going to take Zay Jones then just to get one more Jag in because I think I could take probably Justin Watson for free in the 10th round. But I really was like, oh, Kadarius Toney, that's a guy that can get some touches. I wouldn't feel bad about that. MVS hanging around. For what it's worth, MVS was a guy that made it onto a lot of finals teams last year, from what I recall, where he was not a guy who did very much, but he was a guy that made it. So MVS still available. But what is MVS's routes at now? Got to be coming down, I would think. I'll look at that in a bit. We got one more pick here. Again, 10 rounds. We will bang out a couple drafts here just to get my footing forward. As I always talk about, the best thing you can do for yourself for best ball drafts, if you have the bankroll, obviously that withstanding, is just trying to get a bunch of entries in to get your head wrapped around what you're trying to do, what the field looks like, where the ADP is in line, where different pockets of players go. So that's another part. So key things that I would say are takeaways so far: trying to target conference title game teams, ideally 3 to 4 of them if you can get them. And then also just trying to target teams that you also feel like are good teams, you feel like you can get a full roster for. Like, that's gonna be the biggest part of it, obviously. And then the other part of it would just be being mindful of the sniping. I think obviously sniping is very tilting here, especially when you have guys. Some teams take 1 QB, some teams take 2. That's another big part as well. Where playoff best ball, you're just going to run into people a lot more, so you kind of have to be even more zen than obviously we normally are during the regular best ball drafts. The most zen show around on YouTube is what we often call ourselves. All right. Thinking to decide on one more Chief coming up here. Justin Watson, MVS. Rashee Rice is up to over 80% routes last week, so he definitely is the guy you'd want to have. But let's go with MVS. Let's go with MVS. All right, so final team here. And this is not our final team, but our final version of this current team that we're doing. Jalen Hurts, DeAndre Swift, Travis Etienne, Jerick McKinnon. So 3 running backs: A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Calvin Ridley, Evan Ingram, Zay Jones, and MVS. So if we did get to the finals, we could field teams with both Eagles, Jags, and Eagles, Chiefs. Obviously, our Eagles, Jags team would be a lot better looking than our Eagles, Chiefs team, but that's how that goes. Let's hit another one here. Again, we're going to get our heads wrapped around this. We're going to get where we need to go. Why is that the only tournament that comes up if you filter by NFL? It feels like that's not how that should work. Where are these mittens at? Mitten number 2, $5 entry fee. You can see the prize structure down below as well. $25K to first, $12K to second. And again, I would say for me, and this is how I'm playing it, obviously for you guys as well, I would try to advocate for the same thing. And a bunch of spots here if you want to draft along with me in the mitten today. I feel like really trying to draft some mitten teams before you hop into the gauntlet would still be the best move. Obviously, again, a guy like Short Gamer who knows everything and has the bankroll to blow, like, he could do whatever he wants. But for you guys out there, they're trying to be smart, especially if you are more on the beginner side of things, more on the lower entry volume side of things. I would really try to get your head around, $3 little mitten, again, 20 entry max. $5 mitten, going to get some good entries in there as well. Hopefully, just to get your head wrapped around how people approach it, what's available for you and all that. We're seeing our guy Charles in this one. Raise It, who is sometimes, I believe, in the chat. He is here as well. And I don't know. Maybe Alan is. If you're in this draft, let me know. Let's see. And also some details here from Tyler about how they're paying out the Underdog stuff. So there we go. I know the BBM top 10K we're supposed to be hitting today for sure. So I'll be getting a little bit of a top off there, but very happy getting a top off because I did not play for top 10K lineups, and very happy to get any money there. And kudos to people out there. I did see there were a few people on social media this morning scrolling through that got their full BBM entry fees from finishing top 10,000. So if you could do it that way, you're still building teams that are going to be actually live for the playoffs. More power to you. I don't have the brain power to do that. I only draft 0 RB teams. So one thing I know in life is drafting 0 RB teams. All right, let's see what this draft does here. Get a lot of badges in this one, so we'll see how some veteran drafters approach it. I do think for this one, I would like to build Cowboys or Niners, but we'll see what Raise It does. All right, goes the binary way, Christian McCaffrey. And again, the Niners are the top overall odds to be, in the Super Bowl. Keep that in mind here. 48% to be in the conference title game. That is substantially higher than everybody else. 29% Super Bowl chance as well. That is very high, higher than everybody else. So the Niners are really the belle of the ball team. That's why you get Brock Purdy on the thumbnail making this stupid face that kind of looks like the Black Hole Sun video from Soundgarden back in the day. But the Niners, like, they are the team that you want. Obviously, hard to get them with McCaffrey going at the 101. It feels like if you don't get McCaffrey, you're certainly putting yourself on an island there where McCaffrey getting 4 rounds of play, it feels like it'd be, 3 or 4, let's say, would be very hard for him to not be in winning lineups, you would think. But obviously, if you are not going to go with McCaffrey in a Niners stack, you're definitely going to get some leverage on those teams that are all going to have McCaffrey on them. So just something to keep in mind. But definitely, you know, the Niners are the favorite by like a wide margin. This is a pretty big gap to note. And for what it's worth, too, like we talked about the Niners having some struggles. Obviously, everybody did a couple weeks back, you know, culminating in that Browns game. But they made the moves at the trade deadline. They did what they had to do. And it feels like they are a whole new team. And obviously, you know, putting it down recently in some of these games definitely the biggest example of that. But I think for the Niners, like it really is a situation for them that they're the heaviest favorite for good reason. The team makes sense. And as a result, you all see people competing here where Raise It went McCaffrey. Then we see GTM go Debo and Brock Purdy. So you're going to run into a lot of competition trying to draft Niners teams for the most part. Yeah, Niners are minus 175 to get the 1 seed, so need another QB with Purdy. There we go. Raise It in the chat. There we go. Wasn't watching, but oh, good. So I'm doing some viral marketing by appearing in Raise It's draft. That's all I can ask. And that guy took Ayuk, so that's not great. We do get Tony Pollard here. What the fuck was that? Tony Pollard. Let's go to him. Obviously, we're building out Dallas here, so going to try to build similarly to just what we did with the Eagles. But you know, CeeDee Lamb, Tony Pollard, 2 key parts here. You could certainly nickel and dime Tony Pollard for how bad he's been this year. But for a pure playoff format, if they build a lead, it's Tony Pollard getting those carries for the most part. So I think that this team looks good, and we'll see what Raise It does here, knowing that he is competing now. He's probably not even competing for that Niners build. I guess he is. Took George Kittle. So he might go AFC. So there we go. All right, so Raise It's going to, I think, try to build AFC with his NFC side of things. Having Kittle, having McCaffrey, that makes sense. I think we just have to take Dak here. It's not worth the risk of him going to somebody else. And again, we are trying to fill that full playoff roster, so we're building Dallas here. Dallas makes a conference title game. Hopefully makes a Super Bowl is the way I'm going to approach this. Don't forget to like and sub so we see Spags' mistletoe. Is that me hanging my genitals out over people's heads in the hopes that they kiss? I don't know if that works, but yes, please do like and subscribe. Of course, Splash Play on the march here to 4K subs now, to 5K subs, to 10K subs, to 1,000,000 subs is the goal here on Splash Play. And of course, would not be able to do it without you guys. So please do subscribe down below. And again, if for some reason you haven't played an Underdog and you're going, oh, this playoff best ball stuff seems fun, check out the promo code SPLASH. We'll give you up to a $100 deposit match. If you are a new sign-up as well, mystery pick'em slip gets added to your account. So that's one of the easy ones to win that you can build to get yourself to that 5-leg parlay that we always talk about on Underdog to try to hit. But go check it out. Promo code SPLASH on Underdog. Dallas. Who else from Dallas is worth drafting? I think Brandon Cook's still worth drafting, but I have to assume he's not going to come up in a little bit. He's actually still on this fucking screen, huh? All right. I see a route that I would like for team number 2 here. I see a route that I would like. I think I'm going to go with Buffalo. This is just very cheap for Stephon Diggs. Buffalo has had a lot of flaws this year, but frankly, I think Kansas City's got flaws. I think Baltimore, less flaws for sure. Buffalo, the odds of them making the Super Bowl are not great, but I think they're now priced for that. Only an 8% chance of making the title game, 4% chance of making the Super Bowl. But we know that they are certainly a team that, it has been a title contender in recent years. And the great irony of Buffalo would be in a year where like everybody's off on them. They think that they're shit. They fired their offensive coordinator midseason, all of that this is the year that they get there. I think it is kind of an interesting way to play this. So let's go to them. Let's hope they make the playoffs. All right. Raise It goes Josh Allen. So we are now competing against Raise It for some bills, but that's fine. Let's go Brandon Cooks here to complete the Dallas portion of things. So we got 4 guys from Dallas. We now just need to get 1 guy from an AFC roster to have the full 5 for the Super Bowl. So I'm going to try to build out a little more focused on the AFC side, but I also would not mind taking a Jake Ferguson. I presume he's not. Yeah, he's still here. Boy, Ferguson going pretty high, man. The fact that Diggs is going just like 10 picks out of Ferguson does feel pretty crazy. It's okay, Raise It. I figured I know what you're doing. I saw what you're doing when you took McCaffrey and Kittle trying to build AFC teams, so I get it. If James Cook doesn't come back to you, though, don't be surprised. But that's we'll see what the rest of these guys in the chat do, of course. They have their own free will as well. It's a snipe both Raise It and I as they see fit. It's pretty crazy that 2 is pushed all the way down here. I know like the Dolphins are no lock to be a bye week team, and Sumer has them really low for a team that, was the front runner for the last few weeks. Obviously losing to Tennessee not helped them out very much, but that's a really nice value to get Tyreek at the end of the round, to get Tua down here. And it does seem like Allen JM is also playing. He's playing the Dolphins primary with little bits of NFC teams to try to complete his roster for the Super Bowl. I'm taking James Cook here. So we're now covered fully for a Dallas Buffalo Super Bowl. That feels pretty good. I think that we also, I think we're just going to build two mans of AFC teams here. So who can get there? I mean, we know who can get there, I guess. I think it's Gus Edwards will be our other player here. So we're going to try to build out a little bit of Buffalo, a little bit of Baltimore. Raise it took Keaton Mitchell. For playoff ball, I think Keaton Mitchell has a shot. Now, this is not to shit on Razik's pick because we're drafting for the same guys. I think that Keaton Mitchell has a little bit of a risk where he kind of feels more like the Gainwell to Gus Edwards Swift when it comes to the playoffs, where it's like, who do you trust more giving 20 carries, potentially, 30 carries? Obviously, Keaton Mitchell has the explosive plays, so we can always get there. But I don't hate getting Gus Edwards as part of that Ravens build either. I get why Keaton Mitchell goes higher. I think he's a higher upside play. But Gus for like playoff ball, for grinded out kind of gross games, do you think Gus is a little bit more utility? And Justice Hill still gets enough work that you can play some Justice Hill if you want to get him much later in the draft. But definitely seems like Keaton Mitchell, Gus Edwards, I would say they're pretty close to one-to-one plays in terms of how the playoffs should go. Especially if Hill indeed has high ankle sprain and misses or is hampered the next couple weeks. Yeah, I mean, I think that Tyreek is certainly, he's a risky play for sure, but I'd be willing to buy in on the upside, and just the fact that, Miami, we do believe in a lot. That offense really looked broken without Tyreek in that game. Like, it just seemed like they couldn't do the same stuff. And I mentioned it yesterday, but like, for all we talk about Jalen Waddle being this great leverage on Tyreek Hill, he really was not able to do Tyreek Hill things. Like, even the kind of targets were not the same Tyreek Hill kind of targets that he was getting. And actually, like, really leaned on Cedric Wilson in that game, which I was surprised by. So, like, you definitely want to see Tyreek Hill healthy, but I don't know that it is going to be a thing that puts you over the top necessarily. I see two players I like here. You know what? I think Reza and I can both get a good player out of this. And Mark Andrews might be back, huh? So Isaiah Likely is not necessarily a great pick. I'm going to go with Gabe Davis here, get a little more Buffalo. I am going to take, I think potentially, let's see what Reza does. I would like to take one more Baltimore guy, but I likely, because like Andrews is going to play again if the Ravens get a bye, I would think. All right, so we have Bateman and Likely. I think I'm going to go Bateman over Likely to complete my Baltimore side of the equation. So we now have Dallas, Buffalo, Baltimore. Obviously, Baltimore, very likely to be a bye week team. We'll see how that goes. Dak, Tony Pollard, James Cook, Gus Edwards at wide receiver / tight end. Again, tight ends, you're not going to set up a position here, so you don't have to get tight ends at all if you don't want. CeeDee Lamb, Stephon Diggs, Brandon Cooks, Gabe Davis, Rashad Bateman. So we've got 3 guys from Buffalo. We've got 2 guys from Baltimore. And then we have the Dallas core part of the stack. So it'd be nice to get one more Baltimore guy, but we'll see what we do in that last pick. Cooper Ford, 9th, 10th. That could have been interesting. I got to think Cleveland doesn't have the dogs to keep going. Like, them getting out of the regular season, I think makes sense. But the playoffs, like, everything crunches in. So, like, the defense is being better. Like, whether they trot out Joe Flacco or they trot out DTR, I don't think that they have enough to get out of there. Like, to me, they feel like a wild card team. Like, maybe they win that wild card and that's it. But man, I would not trust like that offense, I think, getting into the playoffs. But obviously, and every take is valid here. Like, just drafting anything that's going to give you that full roster and give you a real shot to get a full team. The Super Bowl is there. And obviously Cleveland is basically not going drafted. So maybe that would have been a way to go. But I know what I'm going to do here. I think I'm going to take Mark Andrews. If Mark Andrews somehow does get in there, I think that's a good one. Obviously, we're now worried about getting out of the bye week, though, which is pretty tough. I might have to take another Cowboy, huh? No, do I have to? You know what? Let's take Mark Andrews. If we get through, this team could be super powered if Andrews comes back. And if not, well, we're fucked anyway. Final team here: Dak at QB, Tony Pollard, James Cook, Gus Edwards at running back, wide receiver, tight end, CeeDee Lamb, Stephon Diggs, Brandon Cooks, Gabe Davis, Rashad Bateman. What did Raise It finish up with? So he went some Jag stuff, Buffalo stuff, obviously, he was already getting. So went heavier Baltimore, Buffalo. I don't know what Raise It's final pick was because it's not going to show it to us, but I presume he also took another Jag late. So he went with the base of San Francisco. Interesting. All right. So there we go. That's what a sharp player did. Raise It. Shouts him in the chat being a part of this one. But you guys know the drill. Let's hit a couple more here because it's only half an hour. We've done 2 drafts. So why not? Another mitten. Let's do it. Again, $5 entry fee in this one. 4 slots in. You can play along with me. Use promo code SPLASH if you do, but 2 more slots to go. Let's see. There we go. Yeah, went to bed with 22 advancing DK millies. Welcome to 28. Yeah, there we go. That's what it was. It was actually funny because I was getting tweets from people showing me how to look at it yesterday before they actually put the entries in. Because basically what they did is they created tickets on your DraftKings account that showed you how many entries were getting across. So I was like, oh, sweet. 29 is good. Would have liked to have gotten a few more. One of the guys who was, I think, left a comment or DM me, I forget which, had also like got 12 wild cards in. So that guy must have had like a lot of teams that just fucking got screwed by really good competition. But I think it was ended up being, if I had to guess, I think it was probably like a 1970-ish cut line for the points in DraftKings. So if you had ones over 1970, you probably got in. Paulino got 3 extra. There you go. Look, any extras are nice. Overlays, as we always say, for every DFS format, whether it be for best ball, whether it be for regular DFS, overlay is the best thing you can do for yourself. Like, it's obviously like a thing to suck up your pride. Like, for Stochastic was doing the ads for Owner's Box for weeks, and it's like, people don't want to play an Owner's Box because it's confusing, it's super flex, all that. But it's like, in reality, like if you're putting in a tournament that has 50% overlay and it's 25K to first, like you're probably better off playing that than DraftKings. It's just like, a pride thing. But I would say the same thing for best ball, where it's like DraftKings had the Millie Maker with overlay for best ball. And it's like people just want to play an underdog. And it's like, I would rather put in money into the DK Millie Maker than I'd put into 5, underdog smaller tournaments. But I get the brand loyalty part. For you guys out there, though, I definitely would say, like, if DraftKings does their shitty version of playoff best ball as well, it's probably going to overlay again because they do a really stupid version that's 20 rounds and you end up drafting the absolute worst players by the end of it. But you still should draft there because overlay is more powerful than anything. There we go. Appreciate, I'll read this out loud. Appreciate you, Spags. If I ship, I'll fund your DK best ball next season. I'm ready for the pain. I hope so. Look, I'm going to fund people's best ball if I win the DK Millie or the BBM, not the drafters, because that's not enough money to fund people, I think. But we'll be funding, of course, either 4 or 5 entries or fully bankrolled entries, depending on how I feel. Probably 4 would be my guess. But that's the giveaway we have going here, of course. You have to be a member of the channel. Subscribe down below, or if you want to join as well, that's going to be another one of the giveaways. $4.99 a month to be a part of the Splash Play community. Now we keep putting on shows every day. So that is the game here that we play. See what we're going to do here. Zach Morris in the 3 spot. Yeah, Zach Morris. I know the name. Zach Morris isn't Reeves, right? It's not actually Reeves. I am of legal age to run, guys. So this is a real danger if I could put together a campaign. I can't even build a sports betting app company in a way that helps. So I don't know if I can run for president, but I appreciate the sentiment here. Again, legalized weed, more drugs for everybody. That's the move. Ask DK what the winning playoff best ball team looked like last year, and they couldn't give that info. I bet it was dog shit. I mean, I bet they fielded a full. I guess no. Did they even field a full roster? Probably not, because you actually you have to play like a full best ball roster there. So, not the best. All right. So all the star receivers have gone for the most part. We try to do some Niners stuff. Let's try to do some Niners stuff. Let's try to blow up the guy in the one hole. And let's punt QBs. Everybody else wants to punt QBs? Fine, I'll punt QBs. You can all take your guys now. How do we get out of this one? I think we have to build AFC teams with this Niners base, and then hope Frog Manu doesn't take Kittle would be my hope. But yeah, this is not going to be pretty no matter what. Run as your VP, voluptuous P. And I don't know that I've ever heard anybody refer to their penis as voluptuous, but I get it. This guy takes Brock Purdy. That's a stupid one. That doesn't make any sense. So I planted a flag for Brock Purdy with the 2 top San Francisco receivers. This guy planted a flag for Brock Purdy with CMC. And the guy with Tyreek Hill takes Brock Purdy, and I presume is going to try to take Kittle on the way back. Maybe that's not a good pick. That's not a good pick. You really do want to get the guys from your base team, I believe. Because again, we're playing for these here. We're playing for these Super Bowl outcomes. And just because you're taking Brock Purdy, unstacked Brock Purdy has been the bane of a lot of people's existence in playoff best ball. And I think we might see it here for PT Druser. But we will find out what he does. Dalmatian just posted in Charles' account. There you go. Good for you. I did not advance my Dalmatian. I think I finished in 8th in the Dalmatian. So $101 tournaments. Not my brand. Oh, I would take Kittle either way because I don't think I need Purdy for this stack. Like I need to build AFC teams and have a baseline of Niners. So like I'm perfectly okay taking Kittle anyway, but I think this guy's going to take Kittle would be my guess. If he doesn't take Kittle, he's an absolute idiot, but we'll find out in a moment here. Oh God, 0-5 in Dalmatian. That's pretty tough. That's pretty tough. It's a lot of money for the high dollar tournaments. Like, I think if you're Corain in the spot, like I get why you max out everything because you're just trying to decrease that taxable income by the end of the year. But like for me, for the bankroll, I want to play like maxing out BBM is the most important thing. Maxing out the Millie Maker is second most important. And for next year, maxing out drafters is the third most important. So I think that's really going to be my core focus next year. I'm sure I'll throw in some puppy entries here and there, but just for you guys to prepare mentally for the streams, like I want to max those 3 out and I'll be doing streams and drafts. The plan is to do them like every day, basically. And that's going to be the case. So he didn't take Kittle. So he just took Brock Purdy. What a fucking idiot. If Jerzer is in here, I apologize because this is a show for beginners. But for beginners, hey, take a lesson. This is fucking stupid. Don't draft like this. There's no point. Brock Purdy alone is not going to get these teams through. But I'm going to take Kittle, and then we're going to build some AFC boys. Honestly, part of me wants to just build Miami just to fuck them. But Miami without Tyreek, not the most exciting. This is tough. This is tough. I'm going to take Josh Allen as one of my picks here. Let's do this. Let's focus on our shit. I could hurt this guy more, but I'm not gonna. Diggs. Yeah, let's do Diggs here. Man, Buffalo is really the cozy team for me, huh? Yeah, I think Buffalo is like a trap team for me where like I still think of Buffalo like highly and they have not given us a lot of reason to this year. Really, time after time again. But I think like I feel really comfortable trying to get Buffalo teams in just because like they have the chance, they're not suddenly not a Super Bowl team, like just because they've ran bad this year. And I would say the same thing for Cincinnati. Obviously, losing Burrow for them, like that makes them not a Super Bowl team. For Buffalo, though, like everything is still there besides some defensive players who obviously them not being in is not a great one. I hate that I helped this guy out. Hate that I helped him out. Getting Kittle and Purdy. Ugh. Juwan Jennings is the guy you need. Maybe. I mean, this might be an Eli Mitchell team. And Lord knows I didn't get enough Eli Mitchell during regular best ball. I need to really martingale that bet for the playoff best ball as well. Buffalo wins this week. They steam up these drafts. I guess that's true. I mean, they definitely do get a little bit safer for a playoff spot. And them not even having a shot to be a bye week team, that does sort of seem like a team that really could pick up some steam because we know they have fancy producers. We know they have big upside. You have guys at ADPs that are reasonable. They kind of feel, well, the Jags were going later last year. They kind of feel like the Jags of last year to me, where it was just really easy to put them together as your bailout stack. And honestly, a lot of Jags teams advanced. Christian Kirk, I think, had the big game in the wild card round last year. So it works. Drafted 75 gauntlet mitten teams that have never seen Kittle in the fourth. Wow. All right. So maybe I fucked up by not taking Kittle in the fourth. But I wanted to make sure I'm going to get an AFC team. And with how these guys were drafting, not the most reliably, I did want to get to Josh Allen. But this guy, fucking Purdy, man, just ruined the entire approach, I would say, for how I was going to do things. That's how it goes. I think even more, best ball itself, like regular season best ball is still a game of adaptation when you are drafting teams where, I got sniped on this. How do I bail out with another QB? How do I take this stack and make it more valuable even though it doesn't have the QB? That kind of thing. For playoff best ball, it's just like, it's more the most extreme version of that, where it's just about having to adapt to like people doing illogical things, people building teams that have no shot to win at all. You really do have like a lot more landmines, I think. No matter where the field's going to be either. Like I'm sure the gauntlet is probably a little bit sharper in terms of like how people approach, but I would wager there's still like a lot of dumb teams being built in there. Oh man. Interesting options here. So we could really go directly after the Miami guy if we want and build out Miami a little. The tough part is we're not going to have the running backs, right? Because Mostert went. Yeah, Mostert went. I'm going to make sure I get enough players to make a Bills-Niners Super Bowl. It's going to be priority number one. Now, what can we do late? Who actually has a shot to make it from the AFC late? Cleveland. Could build out Cleveland. Oh, God. This is not pretty. Miami, I'd have to draft someone really shitty. Let's see what we can do. Let's build up Baltimore. Because I think I'll be able to get one more Baltimore receiver late no matter what. So I'm going to try to do that. We need to have a running back from the AFC because obviously we didn't get McCaffrey, and Eli Mitchell, Lord knows, is not going to be enough to get us through. So we'll go with Cook, Keaton, Mitchell. Yeah, so we now have a 5-man roster for Buffalo. No, that's actually taking Keaton Mitchell might not have made the most sense. Oh, well. What are we going to do? I panicked. Buffalo stack better than Kittle if you can get Cook. All right, so if Charles says it's good, we got that. And Cleveland, yeah, I think I'm going to take Cleveland now. So you guys who wanted me to take Cleveland last draft, I think I'm going to do that for this one. I was hearing panting outside the door and was very confused. And I realized now that my wife came back from the gym and is now doing the Peloton as well, which is an unbelievable amount of dedication. But I was like, there's very confusing noises that have been going on where like the door was banging briefly and now that. So now I know that is in fact hard workouts going on right outside the door as I'm here drafting teams leisurely. They're going to hit one more draft with this one so we can cram in 4. And again, every Wednesday heading into the playoffs, going to do these instead of the Spags rankings just because I think the Spags rankings have lost some utility. As I mentioned, I'm in the community post I did last week, but the sample size is now too big and I don't want to shrink the sample size because it's going to just throw off everything and I think be a little bit less helpful. So that's why the Spags rankings are no longer going on. And I think playoff best ball, probably where most of your guys' brains are at anyway. So that's going to be the case. Yeah, Flacco season might be afoot for me. Or I could take Tyler Huntley and hope that Lamar gets hurt. But I don't think that's going to be the case. Fucking just not getting Purdy, man. If I don't get my base like QB set up, I think I really do fuck up my teams more for playoff best ball. Because even thinking back to last year a little bit, like I feel like that was how I ran last year too, where it's like, okay, this threw me off. Now I'm just kind of grabbing guys. And then if you're fundamentally not building teams that are, again, trying to get those 5 guys in the finals, you're just fucking up. And I think in this one, I may have fucked up a little bit with that. But we are going to take Odell. We're going to do that. So we do have some Baltimore stuff here, even if we don't have the QB. And now let's go to the world of Cleveland. And let's take Amari Cooper. But yeah, I don't feel great about this team. Felt a lot better about that first team than I do about this one. The team so far, Josh Allen at QB, so hopefully we can get out of the wild card, I guess. James Cook, Keaton Mitchell at running back, Debo, Ayuk, Diggs, Odell, Amari Cooper, and we're going to try to get, I think we're going to try to target. So Joe Flacco, as all the things, and this is the thing that you guys are going to know if you're not of my age. I turned 39 in October. Like Joe Flacco's 38, and hearing all the fantasy podcasts and football podcasts we talk about, well, Joe Flacco's playing really well right now, but he's 38, so he can't hold up. First of all, I was like, how is Joe Flacco younger than me? Like, I feel like he's had kids since I was like 20, but that might not be the case. But Joe Flacco, not only a year younger than me, but then to hear people go like, oh, this guy, man, he can't, he's so old, he can't do anything. How is it's really not the best feeling in the world, but apparently it's going to be my team. Yeah, Tua is still on the board. You know why? Because the fucking Dolphins guy had to take Brock Purdy, and now he's going to get Tua for free in the last round. Unbelievable. Yeah, I probably should have taken Tua with Josh Allen. I think would have been the move. I could have gone Debo, Ayuk. I got my Bills here. I would have had to get Jalen Waddle. So I'd have had to pass up Keaton Mitchell for Waddle, but then I wouldn't have had a good Miami running back. It would have been like a Savon Ahmed kind of tier running back, so that wouldn't have been the best. Be a weird room. And if Raisin's telling us that this doesn't happen that often, he's done 75 drafts, I take a lot of stock in that. Well, good. So we'll definitely get some players through, I guess. Hopefully. Oh, good for Zach Morris here. Don't let that guy get Tua for free. Zach Morris takes an unstacked Tua, seemingly just to break it up for PT Drewser, who does not deserve to have good players anyway. And now he's just drafting wildcard guys. Like these guys, like the Minnesota. Like, what is Minnesota's chances of making the playoffs? It cannot be that high. Minnesota has the 18th best chance to make the conference title game. I probably would not draft Justin Jefferson if it were me, but I'm not PT Drewser, as thankfully, I guess. All right, Cleveland guys. Doesn't matter which order I take them. We're going Joe Flacco. And then for our last pick, is Jerome Ford really the guy, or is it maybe Kareem Hunt? Because I think that is a legitimate question. Well, let's go with Jerome Ford. So we would be able to field 5-man teams now for Buffalo Niners. We would not be able to field a 5-man team for Baltimore Niners. Would be able to field one for Cleveland Niners, though. So yeah, the Baltimore guys I just shouldn't have taken. Again, that's the muscle memory of doing these drafts, I think, that I have to build up. So that's how we're going to do it. Let's see these final few picks here. Let's see what fucking Drewser does. More like loser. Fields? This is just, okay. This is just terrible. Whatever. Like, you can't take Fields and Jefferson. They're competing for the same playoff spot. I guess unless you think Detroit's going to fall out entirely. That's not it. It's terrible picks. Terrible picks. See what a good picker, what a good drafter does and raise it, and then we'll call it quits here and draft one more team here. One more mitten coming up. DK Metcalf for him. Interesting. It's going with just some advance rate guys late for raise it. Interesting approach. All right, final team here. Josh Allen, Joe Flacco, James Cook, Keaton Mitchell, Jerome Ford, Debo, Brandon Ayuk, Diggs, Odell Beckham, Amari Cooper. So Browns new and former here uniting together for me. So there we go. All right. One more mitten. Let's do it. $5 entry fee, only 5.7% filled. Of course, going to get more filled as the weeks go on, but this draft immediately filled. So there we go. These look soft AF. So they are soft generally. The issue, though, like they're soft in terms of people not drafting teams that actually have a shot to make the finals. And that probably includes the one that I just drafted. Like, I guess we are live for Buffalo and Cleveland, but that's how it goes. But I think you have the two parts where people are drafting to get out of the wild card round. And then also people get caught up like I just did, where I don't have an itchy trigger finger too often for the stuff. But because I'm not doing a ton of these drafts yet, I hop in and I'm like, oh, wait a minute. That's that was a dumb move. So I think that's speaks to what I was talking about of trying to get some more drafts in, especially before you enter higher dollar stuff. But then also because of how chaotic it can be, because you're competing for so many players who are going to, go at loggerheads against each other, where if, somebody's trying to build an NFC team, they don't need AFC guys. Somebody's trying to build AFC teams, they don't need NFC guys to make the Super Bowl. You're just competing against everybody for the same players for the most part. So the best case scenario that you could hope for is like what Raise It and I had the draft before last, where he's taking his guys, but he's like, we're both able to get guys that still make sense. And I think a lot of people, when that happens, they just panic and then just go a different direction. Gauntlet, not so soft, I'm sure. Beachhead, the man who's all about community, is missed drafting. I agree. Look, drafting season was good. Next year, I'm sure it'll be a good one for us here on the channel as well. Obviously, big part of growing this channel this year is doing the drafts every day. And next year, I'm going even heavier on it. So it'll be a lot of fun here for me too. I think I'm now ready to go back into playoff best ball now that we know that the best ball playoffs are set, because I kind of didn't even want to draft a team until week 17 was done. Just because I want to see how they do. We spent so much time here, so much mental acuity going towards this stuff of trying to draft good basketball teams. But now for playoff best ball, starting to wrap your head around it, I think in week 15, then hopefully you get sharper, 16, 17. And then by 18, you already know everybody's going to be in. That's the hope that I'm trying to achieve for myself with playoff basketball this year. And of course, it doesn't hurt to be getting all of the underdog winnings back from the teams that have advanced. So that'll help bankroll this journey as well. Definitely not going to max the gauntlet or anything, though. I'm just going to put in a smattering of entries and pray to our Lord and Savior that it all goes well. All right. So we have some options here. I think. All right, man. I'm in my own head now about this a little bit, if I'm being honest. All right. So we need a team that's going to be available in the wild card and an AFC team that's going to be good. All right, let's go Lamar for our first pick. Now we can at least get receivers down a little bit lower. And then we can't take Dak because we're not going to get CeeDee Lamb with it. I think one of the Niners, you wanted Debo and Purdy. I was thinking that, but I didn't go that way. Let's go Eagles. Let's hope the Niners get the bye and Eagles get the wild card. But now I don't have a QB, so we're going to have to build a couple NFC teams. But I would like the Ravens to be my base team here, just because, Lamar, again, playing really good. We know what the ceiling is for him, obviously. But the part that I was seeing is that you just don't have to draft any Ravens for a little bit here. So I can hopefully get guys when they're coming on the way back, because we're drafting on the turn yet again. Really great draft picks, by the way, for me going at the end of the round once again here. Be a Lamar, A.J. Brown. Hopefully we can get maybe one more Eagles receiver, but definitely would like to get one of the running backs, ideally Swift. We'll see what Raise It does here. All right, I inadvertently sniped Raise It too, so my apologies to Raise It. There we go. I honestly didn't think it through. I was just really panicked about it. Okay, who's going to be available for a wild card team? But I'm going to try to just take a couple pieces from different NFC teams. Takes Devontae. So he'll probably take Swift on the way back, but we'll see. We'll see what Raise It does. Raise It knows the board a lot better than I do, so watching him, informative for you guys, hopefully, as it is for me. Josh SZW. What does he do? The one spot is tough, too, because, you have McCaffrey, you have that locked up, but then you're getting, so few Niners pieces back. You don't get a receiver with him. You could take Kittle again. He's probably, Purdy and Zay? So he had to fuck me, too? God damn it. Also, he's building 2 bye week teams, it looks like. That maybe doesn't seem the best. Ravens. 56% chance of the bye. Man. Yeah, I don't think that's the smartest. I feel like that's what I did last year, was building too many of the bye week teams, and I just couldn't get the rosters together to get there. Even though, as we talked about earlier, the 2 bye week teams did make the Super Bowl. So, whatever. All right, so Raise It took Swift as we expected, so that's nothing too shocking there. We do need to get some other pieces of the NFC and also Baltimore now that we got sniped on Zay Flowers. Fuck. All right. Man, I do not like how this is going. Detroit. Let's do Detroit. Can we get one of the running backs? Gibbs or Montgomery for the playoffs? I feel like Montgomery more of the playoff back. We might not have to make that decision point yet. Let's go Keaton Mitchell now to make sure we're going to at least have a running back with Lamar. So team so far, Lamar, Keaton Mitchell. Our receivers are from the NFC. I would like to get a running backs for both teams from the NFC, but I think we're going to try to get them later. And then we'll obviously have to get some Baltimore pass catchers. But because Zay Flowers went, my priorities are completely thrown off. One spot can only take a 5 max these teams, so they won't fill up a complete roster in round 1. Yeah, okay. That obviously makes sense. If buys goes predicted. Draft season is back. Yes, we are back in the lab here trying to draft some teams. And I didn't draft Buffalo for one time here, so we got that going. But it's tough, man. How the pieces move around in different draft rooms. You really can't get comfortable, because this is a completely different draft, I feel like, than the last couple that we've done here. And I really have to adapt in a way that is not my ideal structure, but I think still makes sense. Where do we find that page that shows teams equity winning division making playoffs? Let me drop it in the chat here. This is Sumer Sports. It's their league table. There's similar ones out there. I used to use the one for Football Outsiders, but I'm not using anything that's over on FTN now, because but Football Outsiders did a good one. Sumer Sports has a very similar process as well, with Eric Eager, who was formerly a PFF, and Thomas Dimitrov is the guy who is funding that, the former GM of the Falcons. So another good site as well, but very similar process, I believe, to what I'm comfortable with from Football Outsiders in the past. Okay, so he's just now taking all of Baltimore. All right, good. Thanks, Josh. Very smart teams. Have to assume he's going to take a random wild card team late here. But this is just an annoying build from Josh that doesn't help him out that much and does not help me. So, is what it is. Let's see what Raise It does coming up. Got to assume maybe Dallas Goedert in the mix for him. Maybe. Or he's going to start building AFC. Playoff best ball. I feel like the drafting a playoff best ball team kind of feels like it feels emotionally to me like back in the days, and of course back in high school, not in fucking in college or anything. I did not play football at USC, but like playing like high school football, like that first day you're back on the field and like you smell the grass and like the air has like that, especially on the East Coast, like that humid kind of thick air that comes with football. That's how I feel like doing a best ball draft right now, where it's like, we're back in this again. And then we take another brief break. And then in February, the whole draft cycle begins again. So it'll be a lot of fun. January, though, should be a good time here because I think the rookie stuff this year, I'm really going to throw myself in. And obviously, that was one of the strongest parts of the channel last year. All right, so we could get another Philly receiver, which I am going to do here. That's because we've gotten sniped to death on Baltimore receivers. So why do that more? And then let's also, this is a tough call for me. I feel like Montgomery, more the playoff running back. Jahmyr Gibbs, obviously explosive upside as well. But I'm going to go, gosh, I fear Montgomery just punching in 1-yard touchdowns where you don't have the luxury of giving Gibbs outside runs. So let's go Detroit here. So we have Lamar, Keaton Mitchell, David Montgomery, A.J. Brown, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Dallas Goedert. I also kind of feel like Detroit's absolutely going the wrong way. Detroit is like a little bit undervalued as a team that we know could put up a lot of points, has big fantasy producers, and I'm getting Amon-Ra in the 3rd round. Like, obviously, they have to make a run here. They're going the wrong way. Only a 5% chance of making the conference title game. But if we're going to point out, like, who could be the Jaguars of this year, Bills would be 1 for me. Detroit would be 2. I do like this tier of, like, 10% or less conference title teams. Like, really, these 3, I think, are it for me. Would not trust the Browns as much, even though we just built them. I would not trust the Colts as much. I think that's it. Shout out Charlie. Your rookie stuff is great, Spags. Looking forward to it for the offseason. I'm always really glad to hear that from guys who've won big money before. But yes, I feel really good about my rookie process and obviously, being able to identify some stuff. So I'm going to run it a lot similarly. I might try to fancy it up because last year we were basically just looking at my Google Sheets on the stream. Might do that, but I think what I'm going to try to do is like do that as like the first look at it and then try to do like a graphic-y video after that. So stay tuned. It's going to be fun here. I think 2024 for Splash Play. Obviously, it's been a big growth year for us here, but 2024 is when I think I'm really going to try to drag my ass across the finish line. Get in my feels. Yeah, look, I love best ball, man. Best ball brings me a lot of joy, but I do think it's one of those things for me where like I need a break sometimes from best ball. That's why battle royales in season, it's like I can't try to 150 max these. Like I couldn't, it just is like a lot to try to do that stuff. But like the process of best ball to me is like one of the more fun things you can do. All right, let's see what we're gonna get here. 2 spots. Ready to max the big board. Big board did not go as well for me as I thought. Fuck, he took Goff? Why the fuck would you take Goff? You took Gibbs and Goff? God damn it. What a twat. All right, let's just get our Philly side of the equation then. So at least we'll have a running back from Philly. Definitely need more pass catchers from both sides here. Motherfucker, man. Just cannot catch a break. Jameson Williams, no Jared Goff. Oh, well. Really? The tilt is back in full force. It's just like that. You didn't need that. I mean, Mahomes getting the bye is, I guess, still a shot, but it's getting lower by the week. 23% chance of the bye. I appreciate the spell check. I wasn't going to call you out on misspelling jabronis, but that is the correct way to spell jabronis. Might not even be an E on it. I think it might just be an IS. Classic term, of course. I think it started with pro wrestling, but I know like The Rock brought it into like pop culture. But I know that like Mac from It's Always Sunny also very much loves the phrase jabronis. Glad this brings you guys joy. Didn't realize how much I enjoyed Spags getting sniped or missed Spags getting sniped. Yeah, that's a lot of great fun for me here. Fucking A, man. It's just too what it's like, okay, if somebody's like really competing for players with you and like they're building a team that's going like directly at you, fine. But like this Goff Jahmyr Gibbs correlation is not doing jack shit for Ms. Milblevins here. So I am not happy about that one. Goff was like my wild card QB, and now I'm not going to get him because this guy took him ahead of ADP slightly, I think. Either way, fuck him. Fuck them all. Another makes me feel like it's me against the world. He's like going to be slightly ahead of ADP, but still, like, what fucking bullshit. Let me get Jared Goff, man. Oh, good. glad it's what the channel's become. Me rage tilting over and over again. Tim here live. Glad to see Tim, one of our regular commenters. Appreciate always seeing you guys in live chat whenever the opportunity allows itself. And of course, you guys should always be in the mix here on Splash Play. I've not done a great job asking for subs here, but please subscribe down below with the like button, leave a comment. Of course, Splash Play on the march here every day, Monday to Friday at 11 a.m. doing shows. And that's always going to be the promise here on Splash Play, is I will show up and do the work every day. And going to be different things every day. That's always the goal. Tomorrow's showdown, back in the showdown world, and going to be an interesting showdown because it looks like Aiden O'Connell maybe not starting that game, and also Easton Stick starting for the Chargers. So we are getting, we are in prime Week 15 form for Thursday Night Football coming up tomorrow. Playoff snipes feel so much worse. Yeah, I agree. I agree because like it's such a narrow window to build good teams. I'm like such a tough needle to thread to build teams that can get 5 guys to the Super Bowl and also can get out of the wild card. And now it's like I don't have the optionality to do that because this guy took Detroit for no reason. Go Stroud / Nico with my last 2 picks. If they get in, they'll win their division and get a home game first round. Okay, that's tough, but I trust Raise It here, so we'll do that. I guess rather than doing Browns again. Nico with the calf strain, though, man, like that could knock him out. But I'll do it. At this point, it just doesn't matter. Not confirmed yet. Antonio Pierce is not named a starter yet, so it does. The inclinations out there might be that it is going to be Garoppolo again, but could go either way. So don't lock that in yet. All right, following Raise It here, going Stroud. It's a $5 entry, so I can just burn it. Who cares? Stroud, and we need Davis Mills to win a game to help Stroud get in. It looks like if Stroud is not going to play with a concussion. And then Nico. I blindly listed information from guys in the same draft as me, but I trust Raise It enough to do that. So my final team here, Lamar, CJ Stroud, again, got sniped on Goff. That ruined it. Keaton Mitchell, David Montgomery, Kenneth Gainwell, A.J. Brown, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Dallas Goedert, Jamison Williams, Nico Collins. If we got to the finals, got to the Super Bowl, we could field a full roster with Houston, it looks like. Yeah, we could field a full roster with Houston. We could field a full roster with Detroit, Baltimore, but that's about it. So there we go. God damn it. God damn it. All right, there we go. That's it, guys. I think I've done enough today, but it's good to see you guys coming in here. Appreciate you guys. And again, hit the subscribe button. I'm fucking dejected after hit the subscribe button, hit the like button down below. The like button helps out. Leave a comment if you're watching after the fact as well. Helps the algorithm. And of course, I always reply to every comment. That's what we do here. Of course, Splash Play on the march to 4K subs now, 5K subs. So subscribe down below, hit the like button. Shout out to the Squirt Squad as well. These are the people who help me put on the show by being a member. And of course, if you are not a paying member anymore, I take your ass out. That's what we do here on Splash Play. But please join down below, $4.99 a month. Of course, you get the VIP badges, the custom emojis as well. And you also get access to me if you want it, but you also just help me put on the show. So it would be a big help if like 1,000 of you signed up. That'd be really sick. But please hit that join button down below. But make sure you're subscribed even if you don't join. And of course, go check out Probably. We'll be hopping over there again. Another winning day yesterday. And this is like, it feels like I'm doing shtick, but like we won again. It was like a $50 win, so like 0.5 units, but still was enough. Where we have now not had a losing day in the last week of streams on Probably app on YouTube. So check that out if you want some betting data. Of course, Probably.com. My startup is not me doing an ad. Go check it out. Promo code SPLASH gets you 50% off at Probably.com/subscribe. And it is like impossibly easy to get in good bets right now. The data is humming. It's working really well for NBA in particular, but the NBA is actually like an efficient market. So for soccer, for tennis, for all that shit, we've hit on some plus 400 tennis bets. Like it's really looking good at Probably. So check it out for yourself. Again, good way to get in good bets, mathematically profitable bets for little to no effort. You can draft it on a toilet, much like you do for Underdog. So check it out, Probably.com. Check out my video at Probably app on YouTube, and I'll be back tomorrow for the showdown video. So appreciate you guys being here as always, and I will see you then. And fuck that guy who drafted Jared Goff. See you tomorrow. Bye.